Hello and welcome to my latest video. If you're new here, I have created this channel to essentially put out the videos that I wish I had access to when I first bought my quad bike and also wanted to get into green laning in the UK. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about quad bikes and what makes them road legal. Obviously, they're often associated with off-roading, but there are perfectly legitimate reasons why you'd want to use them on the road. And I wanted to talk about what requirements your quad bike needs to meet in order to allow it to go on the road. So let's jump in. So first off, I'm going to share the DVLA site from gov.uk around the rules for quad bikes. So as you can imagine, with any motor vehicle, which is a mechanically propelled vehicle that is made or intended for use on the road, it is required to have a registration with the DVLA. It must be taxed and have a valid MOT if it is required to have one, so it's older than 3 years old. Most of them, and I say them, quad bikes can't be used on the road, and that's because they don't meet road safety standards. Obviously, they're quite a unique vehicle. You don't see them everywhere, and there's lots of reasons why they're not that safe in certain scenarios, because obviously they don't have indicators and all that sort of thing. But road legal quads, and if they're designed to be on the road, then they will have some of these safety features. So let's talk about registering. So this must be with the DVLA, so you will have a V5 essentially that has your registration of your vehicle, your VIN number, and that will be sent to you. You must have an MOT certificate. Again, this only applies if your quad bike is older than 3 years. So in the scenario with my quad bike, it was brand new last year, so I've still got another 2 years before it needs an MOT. And then in terms of driving license, now this is obviously a crucial one. You don't need a bike license to ride a quad bike. You need a driving license. So essentially that means you must be at 17 years of age in order to drive one on the road. And another point, obviously, if you're going to be on the road, then you're going to need insurance. And the minimum level of cover you need to drive any vehicle on the road is third party. I do have fully comprehensive on my quad bike. It was actually cheaper than third party only for some reason. But again, that is a stipulation that any vehicle that is on the road must meet. So in terms of passengers, now this is where it gets slightly more interesting. You may well have seen people with quad bikes and they're carrying people on the back. I would probably say the vast majority of those occasions do not meet safety requirements of the manufacturer, i.e. don't carry more than one person, but also this would have been an illegal use of the quad bike, because most of the quad bikes you see around are not designed for two people, and the quad bike must be designed for two people in order to carry two people on that quad bike. With mine that you can see sort of back on this screen here, you can see it's got a passenger seat at the back and it has handles. Again, that's specifically because this quad bike is designed to carry two people, and it is slightly longer to accommodate the footrests for the rear passenger, and it also has a slightly longer body to accommodate, you know, the extra weight that's put on the back there. So that is very important to note if you intend to carry passengers, and specifically on the road. So if you want to use it off-road, well, again, there are some options here. So you don't have to register it at all, but with quad bikes and the theft of quad bikes being quite high in this country, there is an off-road register where you can put in details about your quad bike, which will help it essentially be returned to you if it is found, should it be stolen. So that could be quite helpful. And one other thing of note that we just slightly skipped over here around helmet use. So whilst a quad bike can go on the road and you don't need to wear a helmet, I would say you're absolutely bonkers if you don't. But again, you don't have to in this country. It does stay here, which I didn't know. In Northern Ireland, you do actually have to wear a helmet if you are riding on the road with a quad bike, and you can get a £500 fine, which is pretty steep. So interesting that they have that stipulation and we don't, because I would suggest, and from my experience of driving the quad bike on the road, having a helmet is a very, very good idea. And mainly, besides the inherent safety benefits of wearing a helmet, but the road noise is just one of those things that, you know, is something you can eliminate with a helmet, or at least reduce to a great deal. And then, you know, putting those foam earplugs in also reduces the noise as well. So Definitely something I would advocate for. Now, there's another category of road legal quad bikes. So mine's classed as a private light goods vehicle, which allows it to do certain things like be further away from my home address in the same way a car would. Now, agricultural quad bikes, on the other hand, there are some other stipulations that require them to be used for that purpose. And in doing so, they don't actually have to have a stricter sort of requirements around MOTs and lights, indicators, all that type of thing. You can see here there's some information around if it's going to be used after dark, then it must have front and rear lights, must have a number plate light, must have a number plate. But again, you don't have to necessarily pay tax if it is used for agricultural purposes. And there are more sections of this website that cover the use of agricultural quad bikes on the road. But the key thing here is around passengers. They can't carry passengers. So even if it was designed to have 2 people on, if it is registered as an agricultural vehicle, you couldn't carry 2 people. Even though the quad bike is designed to carry 2, if it is registered in that way, you wouldn't be allowed to do that. Obviously, it's a technicality, and someone would have to have a really bad day to be prosecuted for that. But in theory, you would be outside of the regulations and requirements and could be prosecuted. So something to bear in mind. Now, in order to get registered, obviously your quad bike needs to meet certain requirements, and if it is not approved from factory to go on the road, then you can apply for what's called an MSVA, which is a motorcycle single vehicle approval. And essentially what this is you take your quad bike to a MOT centre and they will check it against the requirements to get this approval in order to be able to register it for use on the road. So again, there's some eligibility here around the vehicle can't be older than 10 years, it must be a quad bike, it must be one of these things to get this type of approval. And there is a massive manual, which I actually had a look at in prepping for this video, which is 208 pages. And this stipulates all of the requirements for all of those types of vehicles to be able to get this approval and then therefore be able to be used on the road. I think section 7, which was the one I was looking at for speedometers, is obviously a crucial one because if you're riding on the road, section 4 was speedometers and section 7 was around brakes. This is one of the interesting parts actually and leads me on to some of the kind of differences between some of the road legal quad bikes you'll see advertised, is that a lot of them are restricted to 40 miles an hour, particularly brands like CF Moto. They are restricted to 40 miles an hour, and that's mainly because, and I'm going to go to that tab now, they don't actually have ABS. So here's a quad very similar to mine, although this is the new model year. Just zoom in. So you can see on this spec sheet, it has this T, 500T, and that means it's got the type approval for road use. And on the package highlights, you'll see it says ABS or anti-lock braking system. Now this is actually the stipulation for a quad bike to be able to exceed the 40 miles an hour limit on the road. And that's basically because if your brakes are only designed to stop you at 40 miles an hour, if you're doing 60, 70 miles an hour, which you're perfectly able to do on a quad bike, certainly that's on the road, you're going to be doing speeds up towards 60, if not in excess of 60 if you are balmy enough to go on a dual carriageway. But obviously you're going to have a pretty hefty braking system to be able to stop you and your weight, and of course a passenger as well in this case with the max version. Whereas a CF Moto, this one will be restricted to 40 miles an hour and it is capable of going on the road. You can get ECU upgrades that essentially, it's called an off-road ECU, and that's obviously crucial. It's off-road, not designed for on-road. If you do change the ECU and de-restrict this effectively, you are then outside of what's approved, so you will have to get type approval again and make sure that obviously the braking system is adequate. So you can do it, and there's no issue with that. You do save a few £1,000s on getting a CF Moto, but you've got to bear in mind that you are going to be restricted to 40 miles an hour. And if you do it legally, you will need to seek type approval if you do get the off-road ECU upgrade. And then in other scenarios where you can purchase something that by design, or at least by manufacturer's design, it's not meant to be on the road, there are companies in the UK that will do all this for you. And the classic case, and the ones that you'll probably see around, are the Yamaha Raptors. Now, these are very much a motocross style quad bike racing quad. They're not typically meant to be on the road, but obviously they can be converted to go on the road. And case in point, this company here, Quad Bikes R Us, are advertising one that they have modified to have the motorcycle single vehicle approval test done. They have it registered as a private light goods vehicle, so you get your V5. So all of these things now, it could be insured and it could be MOT'd, and it could go on the road. So they actually do all those modifications and manage that for you. I would say that is a really good way to do it if you're looking for a Raptor. Again, they don't really sell them as road legal from the manufacturer itself, because they're designed to be, race around on a dirt track. But if you are seeking to do that, and I have seen some YouTube videos of people who've got these, they have most likely gone through this process of buying it from a conversion dealership. So last of all, I will just link to this. It does say kids quad bike safety features. This ReRoo site is actually fantastic at laying out in a real simple plain English explanation of all of the types of things that you need to consider with quad bikes. It covers all the things around registering it, insurance, helmet, safety gear, all this stuff that I would recommend you have if you're going to have a road legal quad bike. But it also covers all the things to do in cases of accidents, some training opportunities, and a load of other stuff around safety aspects for kids. Obviously, these are super popular, and since COVID, they did see a spike in buying quad bikes and things, because it was an outdoor activity that you could do and got you out. So there's a lot more of these about than there were, pre-COVID. So I hope this video has been useful. If you have any questions, please leave a comment, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.